All right, good afternoon. I think we've got everybody here, so we'll go ahead and get started. First off, just wanted to welcome everybody for being here. This is a new thing that we've started. The goal today is for all the candidates today and the 20th to meet the management team, get an understanding of the current items that the management team is working on, and really, as much as possible, provide a level playing field in terms of information that's provided to all the candidates. So it's an opportunity to ask questions, get information, and really get to know the things that the incredible management team is doing today. So with that being said, we've got a number of candidates that are joining us tonight as well as on the 20th. The individuals here listed, members of the management team, some are consultants, some are full-time staff members. All the individuals here have provided presentations that go over basic level information of what they're working on to provide that foundational information to everybody. One of the things that we'll do after tonight's meeting is send out all the candidates a copy of the presentation here so that you all have a copy of that. We do have this event being recorded tonight so that you can revisit it at a later time and get some more information if you missed something or didn't understand something completely. All the questions that are asked by the candidates we'll make a note of, and we're going to provide responses to all the candidates, not only for this event, but also for the 20th. So the event on the 20th, if there are questions that are asked then, we will make sure that the candidates here have a copy of those questions as well so that we're being consistent and uniform across the board. With that being said, Martha Abelow, Community Development. Captain Chris Allen is not here. He's at a fire, mutual aid fire. Happy Baines, our interim finance director, Jackie Benoit, recreation, Anthony from Public Works, Mario Gouveia from engineering, Monica, city clerk's office, RC Cruz, HR, and then interim chief John Ramirez here. So all the candidates are listed up there. I'm sure you've seen all those candidates or know those candidates from the community. So broad overview of the City of Livingston, the departments and divisions that make up the City of Livingston, the City Manager's Office, Finance, HR, City Clerk's Office, the Police Department, Fire Services provided via CAL FIRE, Recreation, Public Works, Engineering, Community Development, the Treasurer's Office, and the City Attorney. There are a total of 76 full-funded full-time equivalents, 66 part-time individuals, mostly made up in the recreation side, 6 permanent part-time employees. The city does have its own water utility, provides wastewater services to the community. There's only 2 people that work directly for the city council, the city manager and the city attorney. Everybody else, all the operational departments here, report directly to the city manager. Total budget for the city is $35.4 million for the city budget. So here are some notable businesses that make up the city of Livingston. In most communities across the state of California, sales tax drives revenues in communities. So you can see these are some of the top producing businesses in the community. The city of Livingston is unique in that it derives most of its revenues on the property tax side. And so most of that property tax is from residential and commercial properties within the community. So now I want to get into, some broad overview of the city council and then city manager and the staff. For those of you that are aware or not aware, the city is a part of the League of California Cities, otherwise known as Cal Cities. So I've taken this information from Cal Cities, as well as ICMA, the International City County Management Association, and then finally the Institute for Local Government, which is the education and nonprofit arm of the League of California Cities. And their aim is to really educate communities and really provide a good informative arm to communities across the state. So the council manager form of government, the council manager form of government is the form of government in Livingston. The elected city council sets policy direction as the direct representatives of the community, with the city manager providing the professional expertise to manage the organization and carry out the council's direction. So really, the council is establishing the policy priorities, establishing the vision for the community, and it's really up to the city manager to carry out the council's policy direction and the council's vision. This form of government is predicated on the philosophy that elected representatives are better able to make community value judgments on behalf of residents and translate those values into policy direction, the what in city government. So whatever the council deems as the top priorities in the community, that becomes the top priority for the city manager's office, for the public works department, for the police department, and so on and so forth. So the elected body, the majority, establishes what those priorities are for the community. So what you need to know about the city manager. So I am the interim city manager. I've been here for about a year and a half. Here's some broad things that are relevant or that are food for thought. What you may already perceive may not be entirely accurate. So being on the inside of the organization, you have a different perspective, whether that's getting information in closed session, whether that's one-on-one conversations with me, you get a different level of engagement and a different level of situational awareness of what's going on in the community and operationally within the departments. Managers put a very high priority on having good working relationships with council members. It's really important to have an open mind, particularly on the council when you've got differing viewpoints from your colleagues. The city manager represents the policy positions of the current city council. And we know that in any given time when there's an election or council members resign, oftentimes there is a difference in policy direction from the council. And so obviously that change in direction from the council oftentimes shifts priorities for the organization. The responsibility of the city manager is to carry out the current policy of that sitting council. It's really important to take the time to develop a relationship with the city manager. Having discussions, one-on-ones, those are really important to establishing that relationship with the city manager's office and the city council. And one final thing that is really critically important is that you as a council member and the city of Livingston will succeed or fail as a team. That's the city council, that's city staff, and the entire community. So it's really a team environment. What I like to say is a good council, good manager can result in good governance. When you have challenges on a city council and good manager, that doesn't mean that you're going to have good governance. So having those key components on the city council as well as the city manager's office are critical to success of the community. Again, from a manager's perspective, elected officials focus on the big picture, not the detailed implementation of that. That's really the city manager's job for administering and carrying out the directives of the city council. The city manager and the staff, we make it a priority to avoid undue influence on policy development. We focus on policy implementation and service delivery. So one thing that is really important to me as well as the management team is not getting in the middle of political disagreements or having some sort of taking sides or picking who's the right side when it comes to council majorities or council positions. We take the direction of the council majority. It's important to understand and respect the council manager plan of governance, and each group has its own respective lane, the city council, as well as the city manager's office and administration. There's a big difference and a legitimate difference between community perspective and professional technical perspective. So the recommendation from Public Works comes purely from a professional or technical perspective. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the direction that the council wants to take on. So if a staff member makes a recommendation or is recommending certain recommendations, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the council has to take on. Clearly a different perspective on a technical and professional recommendation, but obviously what the council chooses to do is what the council's prerogative is. So everybody on this side of the table is an expert in their respective field, and so they have their own recommendation based on what respective field that is. There is critical importance of clear policy direction. One habit that you will see from me is I will say, okay, getting clear direction from council. Council, I think what I'm hearing you say is so on and so forth. It's very clear that those expectations and that direction is made very clear so that we have our clear marching orders of what it is that the council wants us to do. Oftentimes there's a lot of gray. A city manager or staff can get in trouble if we're operating in the gray. So it's very important that we get clear policy direction on what the council wants us to take on with a clear direction on where we're heading at. The city manager's office will, at least in my view, will not exercise political leadership. So we're not going to get in the middle of political disagreements between council members or different factions of the council. It's just not our role to do that. And so we will do our best to understand that, but we won't necessarily get in the middle of exercising political leadership. And then finally, having a clear understanding with the manager regarding type and frequency of communication. One thing that all the management team does a great job of doing is if there are critical incidents, if there are things that are of relevance to the council, things that might happen, for instance, a police operation and an increased level of police presence, we will ordinarily, customarily share that with the city council so that the city council knows, hey, look, we've got this going on in the community. Just as a heads up, you may see additional police presence so that if members of the community are seeing that, they're in a position to be able to answer questions before they come up from members of the public. So conclusion, when it comes to the city manager's perspective, the things that are of critical importance to me and the city manager's office, organizational performance. So what is the organization? What level is it performing at? Where are the things that we can perform better at? How do we become performing in a more optimal level? Organizational reputation. One of the things that I know that the management team hears from me a lot is ethics, integrity. That matters. And so the things that we carry out, the decisions that we make must be rooted in good, solid foundations and not rooted in politics or playing games. So that's critically important to the management team. And I can say that with this management team that we have, that's something that is very important to this management team. Value to the community. What are the things that we're providing to the community and what do they expect from the city operations? It's really critical to understand that. Personal reputation. I'm not in it to increase my own personal reputation, but my personal reputation is important to me. So you won't see me playing games. It's important for city managers not to be involved with that because our reputation is oftentimes the only thing that we have. And then finally, community pride and confidence. I think it's really important that we take pride in everything that we do. It's important to show the community that we care about the community and exercising that with a certain degree of confidence that residents can expect a level of service from the community that is thought about, and we've thought about alternatives and how to do that. And so that's what the residents should expect from the entire management team and organization of the city of Livingston. So now I'll take a different side and I'll talk about council members' perspective. The council sets the policy overall direction. Staff offers professional advice, but we're not necessarily dominating public discussions. If it was up to me, I'd be limited to maybe about 20 words per council meeting, just because I don't like to dominate conversations and I don't like to be in the middle of being perceived as having a lot to say at the dais. The manager and the staff here implements policy and day-to-day operations of the city of Livingston. There is a fine line, and it's really important to find that line. So where are the lanes? Where are the policy areas that the council should be focusing in on, or what are those policy areas that the council focuses in on? And then our role is to really implement that. So here are just some suggestions, some high-level things, again, taking this from the ICMA as well as Cal Cities. Being a council candidate and going from candidate to actually city council member, you're now going to be, at that time, different than when before you were elected. Sometimes that often results into people thinking that they're very special, but at the end of the day, we're all humans, we're all residents of the community. Take your role seriously because it is an extra layer that you have now. But remember, don't take yourself too seriously. It's important to be prepared, do your homework. Obviously, agendas can sometimes be upwards of 400 or 500 pages, and oftentimes you've got 5 days to review those items. It's really important to conduct oneself in council meetings in a professional and business-like manner. I always make the reference to, can you imagine the board of directors for a company like Nike or a company like fill in the blank behaving in an unprofessional manner? Those are the types of things that council members may want to think about. As a council member, you are a member of the board of directors overseeing a $35 million company. Would you want potential investors that are watching a city council meeting to say, well, the board of directors is behaving in a certain manner. Do I necessarily want to invest my money in that community if we're behaving in a certain way? So it's really important to, at least in my view, always keep that in mind. Oftentimes there are disagreements, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you attack the messenger. Critique the idea, not the person. It's something that is, I think, really relevant in day-to-day interpersonal relationships that we have with spouses or families or friends. Again, when it comes to decisions, it's about the majority, not the individual. So again, once that policy direction is provided, it's all about what that council majority is feeling at that moment in time. The city manager has 5 bosses, so each individual council member is the boss of the city manager. And so oftentimes we're having to balance those individual needs and desires amongst the entire governing body. And then again, this organization isn't perfect. I don't think any of us are perfect, and so there are going to be mistakes. There are imperfections that happen. It's as a result of being human. And so, it's important to model tolerance for organizational imperfection. So the conclusion from a council member perspective, obviously it's really important to celebrate successes. Where were we and where have we gone? It's really important to not lose sight of those good wins. There's always humor in failures and using those experiences as learning moments. And then obviously have fun. Enjoy the experience as being a candidate. Enjoy the experience of being a city council member. You've all worked hard to get to where you are now, even as a candidate. And being elected as a council member means that you've even put even more work into being an elected council member. So with that being said, now we're going to jump into the operational departments and an overview of each one of our operations. We're going to start off with police, and we'll just take it down the line moving forward.
Good afternoon, everybody. And I want to welcome each one of you for being here today, and all the staff to my right and my left. Thank you for making this happen. So a little bit about the police department. Number of employees, currently we are at 16 full-time, 4 reserves, police reserves, 5 full-time dispatchers, 1 animal control / code enforcement officer, and 3 administrative services. So total we have slotted 33 positions, minus a couple that we're short right now, which would be the chief of police position and then also a police sergeant. For general fund budget for the 2024-2025, it's going to be $5,071,334. And some of the pressing issues that we've came up with for this presentation, and these are just a few of them, but kind of some of the main ones, would be definitely patrol officer staffing. And what I put alongside with that is retention. How are we going to keep the officers here? That's been one of the big problems that we have. People kind of see Livingston Police as a training ground, and we need to kind of reverse those roles and keep the good employees that we have. It does cost a lot of money for recruitment, going through training, officers getting into the as a solo beat officer and then going to another department, and it's kind of the same thing every time somebody leaves, they're leaving for money, is what it really comes down to. And then patrol radio communications, that's going to be the radios that we have. Currently, we have ICOM, the VHF, and it'd be nice to switch to something else. Other than that, I know Motorola has a big program right now they're pushing out with the Sheriff's Department, but sometimes our officers in buildings, they can't hear the radio. Dispatchers can't hear them, which could lead to a huge officer safety issue if there's heaven forbid, there's an active shooter or something. We're in a building, we can't communicate with each other. That's going to be huge. And, I've been hearing that over the last 26 years that I've been here is the radios. We have crappy radios. So that's something that we definitely need to look at in one of our priorities. And then just keeping up with our patrol vehicles, with the wear and tear on the vehicles, just driving on patrol, getting in pursuits, and just the wear and tear on these cars. They're very hard on the vehicles, driven every day in the hot and the cold, and different officers, switch out the cars. So it's pretty much 20 to 24 hours a day that these cars are being driven. So that's something we need to continue to build our fleet, continue to get the best equipment and the latest models of vehicles to keep the officers safe and to keep the fleet functioning like it should be. And then just some of the functions and divisions that we have. So we have our administrative side, which is going to be the chief, the lieutenant, and then the administrative support. Patrol, we have our sergeants, we have our police corporals, patrol officers, we have investigations, and then the code enforcement and animal control. And then dispatch side of things, we have our communication, which would be the dispatchers, and then the records managers. And then over to the right, you can kind of see how things are broken down with the chief of police overseeing all the department. And then you have the lieutenant oversees operations and administration, which stems down to our field services with the sergeants, corporals, officers, the school resource officer, reserves, and then the code enforcement officer as well. And then you have, again, down to dispatch with the communications record manager who supervises the dispatchers that we have. So I know that was kind of a lot in a short time. There's probably a lot of questions that you may have. But those are kind of some of the things that for the bullet points that I have for this presentation. So does anybody have any questions or comments on that?
If it's okay, take questions at the end so that I can write them all.
Okay.
Go from there, if that's okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy Baines with the Finance Department. So our financial audits, we are currently up to date as of June 30th, 2022. Our fiscal year ending June 30, 2023, we are currently under review by city staff, and both of these documents can be found online. Our city budget for fiscal year 24-25 is adopted and is available online. Notable highlights, currently our finance department has 8 full-time employees, which consist of a finance director, senior accountant, accountant 2, accountant 1, accounting technician, 2 account clerks, and 1 office assistant. So a little bit of background on the finance department. Our big emphasis is our audit and our budget. So for a budget is basically a forecast or a projected amount of funds that the city will receive and or spend in a fiscal year. Currently, I guess our fiscal year runs from July to June. A city's budget is made up of over 40 different funds. Just for, I guess, a simple terms of fund, think of a fund as having 40 different personal checking accounts. So basically that's what we work with is like 40 different checking accounts. Our general fund budget revenues are around 8.7 million, expenses are around 8.6 million. For city overall, revenue 32.1 million, expenses 35.4 million. And let me back up a little bit. So on the general fund and our total city budget, our budget includes of discretionary funds and non-discretionary funds. So there we have a background on what a discretionary fund is, and that's what majority of our general fund budget consists of. A general fund, discretionary fund, basically it includes our public safety, fire, city council, admin, public works admin, and our parks department. So what makes up our discretionary funds? Our discretionary funds are basically our elected officials have the decisions on how these funds are allocated or how they are used. Mostly these are tax supportive activities, which includes the franchise fees, transient occupancy taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, and that's basically majority of the general fund that consists of that. Our non-discretionary funds are consisting mostly of our enterprise funds and grant supportive activities. So the enterprise funds consist of our water, wastewater, and our solid waste and or refuse, garbage. Used for these specific allocations, so basically as residents pay our water, sewer, wastewater kind of bills, so those funds can be only used for those purposes. So water can be used for our water treatment plants or wells or specific items for that. Also, if you look at the budget, you'll kind of see our revenue for our expenses and also our wastewater, our expenses exceed our revenue. The majority of that is our capital projects that we have implemented for this year, which will be used out of our reserves. Pressing items, our audit, fiscal year 21-22 and fiscal year 22-23 were delayed. We got with management and also with our auditors, and we developed a plan to get us caught up. Currently, for fiscal year 21-22, we received and filed it on March 19th of 24. Fiscal year 22-23 is currently in the final stages, which by this week I should have a rough draft. That's going to give city staff time to review it and go over it. Fiscal year 23-24, we are going to start that audit in December of this year. Functions and divisions in the finance department, we have accounts payable, we have utility billing, and we have payroll. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Monica Cisneros, and I'll be discussing the city clerk's office. Agenda, we have the agenda link up there, which is the www.cityoflivingston.org/meetings. We also have our streaming link on there. The functions of a city clerk office: official custodian of all city records and certifies all official records of the city. Receives, organizes, prepares, and replies to requests regulated by the California Public Records Act. Attends city council meetings and prepares, finalizes meeting minutes. Maintains accurate records of the city council proceedings, ordinances, and resolutions. Performs the duties prescribed by the Elections Code in conducting municipal elections. Prepares, finalizes, posts, distributes the city council regular and special meetings agenda packets. Prepares, posts, and publishes legal notices. Compliance officer for the federal, state, and local statutes, including the Political Reform Act, the Brown Act, and the Public Records Act. Some highlights. We have one elected city clerk, full-time employees. We have one deputy city clerk, executive assistant, one assistant to the deputy city clerk, which is not filled. General fund, city clerk, the general fund, the city clerk budget is combined with the administration budget. Command structure, citizens of the city elect a city clerk, and the deputy city clerk is supervised by the city manager.
So as I mentioned earlier today, Captain Chris Allen is on a mutual aid fire, so he couldn't be here. He did prepare this slide for everybody, though. The current staffing at Station 96, 1 battalion chief, 1 fire captain, and 3 fire apparatus engineers. Station 96 also has paid call firefighters that are also respond when needed. The current equipment assets that we have at Station 96, 1 Merced County Type 1 fire engine, 1 Merced County water tender. Now the balance of these pieces of apparatus are city-owned. 1 City of Livingston Type 2 fire engine, 1 City of Livingston Type 6 fire engine, and 1 City of Livingston aerial fire truck. The fire department responds to all types of emergency and service calls. Some of these calls include fires, medical aids, traffic accidents, and hazardous and material incidents. The fire department also responds to any other calls of service the city may need. The department also conducts fire and occupational inspections. This may include schools, hotels, those types of businesses. The fire department also attends many of the city's community events within the city.
Good afternoon. My name is Martha Abloh, and I'm going to be representing the Community Development Department. Notable highlights, we have 1 Community Development Director, which is currently vacant. We have 1 Senior Administrative Analyst. Oops, sorry, wrong slide. Sorry. So the mission of the Community Development Department is to implement the City General's Plan, implement the city zoning and subdivision ordinances, process land use entitlement applications, provide professional, residential, commercial, industrial planning services to city applicants, the Planning Commission, and the City Council. Implement the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, which is also known as CEQA, and also conduct plan checks, issue building permits, and inspect building and other public structures. So notable highlights. We do, like I said before, we have 1 Community Development Director, which is currently vacant, 1 Senior Administrative Analyst. Presently, we have building and planning services that are provided as a contract part-time basis. Our general fund budget for 2024-25 is a balanced budget with $791,732. Our pressing items are, right now we're currently working on the housing element update, the general plan update, as well as process and development applications. We also coordinate with Public Works and Engineering staff on infrastructure planning, water, sewer, storm drainage, and streets. We have 2 divisions, which is the planning and the building division. The command structure is that the Community Development Director provides administrative oversight of the department with discretionary land use decisions made by the Planning Commission and the City Council.
Good evening. My name's Anthony Chavarria. I'm the Public Works Director. Hang in there, guys. We're about halfway done. I know this is a lot of information to process. I'll try to talk slow. Or fast. So I don't have it listed, but our Public Works Department consists of 22 full-time employees, 6 part-time employees. We got different departments under the Public Works umbrella. There are administrative department, engineering department, our maintenance, fleet, parks, and LMD's department, as well as our water and wastewater, which we call operations department. A little bit about those different departments. and what they do. First, our administrative department. This is where we process encroachment permits, process work orders, complete the Measure V expenditure report, address resident concerns, and assist with compliance efforts. A little bit about our engineering department, and I'll let Noe with the Office of the Engineer.
I think it's on.
Yeah. Noe Martinez from the Office of the City Engineer. And just to highlight a couple of the main responsibilities, engineering is tasked with regulating new development and carrying out capital improvement projects. As far as new development, engineering will review parcel maps, subdivision final maps, and improvement plans for the orderly development of public infrastructure and compliance with the Subdivision Map Act, the City Municipal Code, and the city's improvement standards. As far as carrying out capital improvement projects, engineering is tasked with preparing grant applications, conducting grant administration, preparing the design plans, specifications, and estimates, conducting inspections, providing bidding and construction support, performing contract administration, and preparing reimbursement requests whenever there is outside funding being provided to the city of Livingston. Couple other responsibilities, including maintaining the city's improvement standards and city-based maps, such as for zoning, land use, sewer, storm drainage, and water systems, and also assisting with regulatory reporting for water, sewer, storm drainage, and streets. And last, providing or preparing field surveys and reviewing legal descriptions for different items such as easements, right-of-ways, lot line adjustments, and grant deeds.
Thank you, Noe. We also have our maintenance department, which consists of our street maintenance and facility maintenance, our fleet department, which consists of 2 mechanics that keep our PD vehicles and equipment, fire department vehicles and equipment, public works department vehicle and equipment, all in a state of good repair. Our parks and LMDs, we have 8 parks that the guys take care of, and 26 different landscape maintenance districts. Last department is our water and wastewater department, which is our operations department. And these guys, they take care of the collection line cleaning to keep the sewer lines moving, flowing. Water leak repairs, compliance sampling, day-to-day operations of both the wastewater treatment facility and a plant and the different well sites as well. And keep our equipment maintained. We do have a total budget this fiscal year of $18.1 million. I won't go over all the line budgets there, but we kind of lumped them together for you to review. Some of the pressing issues at Public Works are water capacity and water quality. Some of the priority projects we have going on right now are Well 8 arsenic treatment project, which is projected to help address water quality issues. New Well 18, which is projected to help address capacity issues. And these 2 were recently approved at the last council meeting by council on September 3rd. We also have an SRF grant. Projects that are inclusive of the SRF grant are building a centralized TCP plant and booster pump station at our Killingham Park. Well 8 TCP expansion project, which is adding additional GAC vessels to treat for TCP, and to also build 2 new storage tanks, 1.5 million gallon partially buried storage tank at our Killingham Park, and an additional 1 million gallon storage tank at the Well 8 expansion. The $27 million project. And I'll let Mario go over our capital improvement slides.
Thank you. Mario Gouveia, City Engineer. This is basically just a list of some of the major projects that happened in the recent past or that are scheduled to happen here in the next 5 years or so. In terms of the streets, we have the Winton Parkway, southbound 99 on-ramp, and it does have improvements at that intersection of the frontage road. That one was done just a few years ago. We did a number of alleys, 8 alleys that were paved throughout the city. As I'm sure all of you know, the roundabout was done over here at the intersection of B and Main. A number of pavement repairs, slurry repairs were done in the last 3 or 4 years, as well as some sidewalk and little areas of sidewalk throughout the city also. In terms of water, there's already a treatment plant that was recently done to treat TCP at wells 16 and 14, and that's that used SRF funds through a low interest loan. There have been a number of water line replacements. The most recent was what we call Phase 3, and was throughout the city, or more on the north side of this, actually on this side of 99. The storage tank that city has, a 1 million gallon tank here on the east side of the city, was refurbished not long ago. In terms of the sewer project, there was a couple of lift stations. This Walnut Avenue lift station was done not long ago, and is just redoing a lift station that's actually in the middle of the intersection of Hammett and Walnut. There was also a fairly large sewer project, basically replacing sewer lines and hydrants and services and valves, that sort of project. Major projects for the next 5 years. There's a couple of sidewalk multi-use paths, pedestrian bike paths at the Max Foster Park. They're basically done and will be going out to bid here in the near future. There's a couple of small street projects, one at 4th and towards the south side of the city, between Peach and Ave, and then on Main from Peach to the county line. That's scheduled to occur here in the next, or this fiscal year, actually. There will be some more sidewalk infill. We call them phases 3 and 4, and these are through grants through MCAG. They're FHWA grants that are administered through Caltrans local assistance. There's the Hammett-Campbell intersection that's slated to occur there, and that's also will have a traffic signal. The Winton Parkway, Joseph Gallo intersection rehab, that's a pavement rehab, and it's basically just a pavement rehab. The pavement has been pretty rough there for a while, and the city has looked at doing it and then kind of waiting. So that's out there for next few years, I hope. Well 8A, these were street projects. For water, there's the Well 8A that's under construction. Now it's a replacement for the Well 8. At that same site, there will be a treatment, a TCP treatment plant and an arsenic treatment plant. There will also be a treatment plant at Arcalian Park, like Anthony mentioned, and These are the TCP treatment plants, that's that $27 million project. The arsenic plant, that's the, and well 18, these are the ones that were just approved at the last council meeting. There's also a need for an additional well, and it's well 19 on the west side of the city. That one will require what we call wellhead treatment, because it'll have TCP, so it'll have a treatment plant at its on site there, and it is a costly project. For sewer, there's a sludge thickener installation that's already bid, and it's going to be occurring here in the near future. And a couple of future lift station rehabs, one at Briarwood and Hammett. These are sewer projects. There's a storm project for, again, it's a rehab of a lift station at East Avenue that's in the works. And there's a number of other ones, but these are the main ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. One thing I failed to go over real quick, and that's just some basic information of our water system and our wastewater system, and that's to your right. In our water system, we have 9 groundwater wells, and 8 are active, and 1's on standby and in the process of turning it back to active. We do have a 1 million gallon storage tank at the end of Burgundy. We have 49 miles of distribution water lines ranging from 2 to 16 inches. Wells treat approximately 2.2 billion gallons of water annually. At our wastewater treatment plant, we have an oxidation ditch, which is secondary treatment, 9 sewer lift stations, 8 storm lift stations, 31.25 miles of sewer line ranging from 6 inches to 27 inches. And our last facility upgrade was in 2004, and the plant treats on average of about 500 million gallons a year. Pass this over. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is R.C. Cruz, Human Resources Coordinator. And some notable highlights is we have one position to Human Resources. Currently, the Human Resource budget is combined with the administrative budget. Some pressing issues that we're having to deal with right now is we have active negotiations with 5 of our bargaining units. They represent Public Works, the management, the supervisory, the LPOA, and the clerical bargaining units. The MOUs were expired as of June 30th of 2024. Also working through some of the problematic language in the MOUs. In addition, some of the challenges in HR are, working with department heads, of course, and filling open vacancies. Some of the more hard-to-fill positions have definitely been in the maintenance area for maintenance workers, part-time, the water wastewater operators, and police personnel really across the board. Some of the challenges there, of course, especially for like the maintenance, part-time positions is, the minimum wage across California, fast food places, I think everyone's aware, is more elevated than some of our starting wages. So that is definitely one of the challenges. Additionally, some things that currently we're working on is compliance program implementation with regards to the workplace violence prevention plan. We're also working on updating our illness and injury prevention program, working collaboratively with our department heads to get that updated. In addition, our personnel rules and regs need to also be updated. In human resources, applicant tracking is important, and currently the city right now has a paper application to track applications coming through, so it's not as efficient as if it was on, online, real-time where you can obviously assess candidates and streamline the recruitment process from the candidate perspective, as well as for the hiring managers, where they're having to handle paper applications. So our goal here is that council approved earlier this year implementation of self-service portal. So we're working on that now. And then in the future, we also would like to have council approve employee self-service portal to automate and have employees have access to view their check stubs online, submit requests for vacation and leave, and then a time and attendance, as we're currently still on paper time cards. So those are some challenges that we have in HR that hopefully here in the nearby future we'll be getting up to speed on. Some of the functions and responsibilities that I have oversight with is the employment full cycle, everything from the onboarding, the recruiting, setting up oral interviews, whether we have an internal oral panel or an external, coordinating those efforts, and also working closely with our department heads in doing practical assessments and defining, what skills are we needing to fill those gaps in those positions. And by having a practical assessment as part of the recruitment process, we've been able to really get skilled candidates into some of these higher level positions. In addition, I have responsibility for benefits, compensation, and training, with the help, of course, with our department heads, have compliance with state and federal labor laws and employment standards. And I work closely with our city attorney on any compliance issues with regards to employment and labor laws. So kind of moving on to additional roles and responsibility. So I have overview again for the recruitment, selection and onboarding, employee benefits, compensation, labor relations, and of course any other special projects or assignments assigned by our city manager. I have responsibility for coordinating compliance and adhering to our AB 1825 and SB 1343 and AB 1234 ethics training for employees and elected officials. I also work closely with our risk management authority and ensure that we're adhering to the OSHA regulatory compliance training and programs, ensuring that, like in our public works, we have the required forklift training and other training programs that are required for employees to be operating heavy equipment. I work closely to ensure, again, with our city attorney, that all of our policies and practices and procedures are aligned with state and federal laws and regulations. I have responsibility for ensuring that the city's liability and insurance programs are also adhered to in coordination with our risk management. Additionally, I provide support for any claims and any open litigation or lawsuits, and assist the finance department with budget preparation. I provided some links for resources. You can visit the HR section of the city website and view our current MOUs. In addition, you can also view our current personnel rules and regs link. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Jackie Benoit, Recreation Superintendent. Getting ready to celebrate my 24th year of service to the city. I feel like, woohoo. Yeah. So our notable highlights. Currently, the Recreation Department has 2 full-time employees, Tony and myself. Of course, our programs are all supported by part-time folks that just help with running the programs once we have them organized, collected for, and sorted out. So our budget is balanced at $643,896. Our pressing issues currently is the completion and additional funding for the Prop 68 project, the Livingston Recplex. We have possibly up to an $8 million gap. Another pressing issue is fields and facilities for our growing youth programs, our special events, and our leisure programs, classroom space, field space, court space. And then to be able to expand program quality and not just check the box, we would like to have better coaching and volunteer training available, as well as appreciation and incentives. So our annual programs consist, we have 7 seasonal youth sports leagues for kids ages 3 to 14, and in each one of those leagues, we have 200 to 600 participants. We have 3 seasons of co-ed adult softball. We conduct 6 special events. We manage the swimming pool during the summer. Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission, our department coordinates with them. We run leisure contract classes, and then we also manage our park and facility rentals. We're also the liaison to the school districts and our local nonprofits. And I did give each one of you a welcome wagon packet with our current programming and about the time of year that we operate, and you also get a magnet for your refrigerator, and this little QR code will take you to the recreation site. And with that, any of you that wind up being on council, we always have a lot of fun activities for you to participate in. Many of you I already recognize as coaching for us and being a part of different programs that we operate. So with that, that's all I have, Christopher.
Thank you, Jackie. So I don't know about you, but every time I come to work, I'm just really proud of everything that all of our operations do, because they just do incredible work. So I'm just really humbled by everything that they all do, because they're all amazing individuals. So thank you, management team. So we're at the tail end of our presentation here. There's just a few more slides left. And there's some pressing items that are of importance to council candidates that you all should be aware about. And as a council candidate, what is the vision for the city of Livingston? Where is the city of Livingston going? Where do you envision this community being in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years from now? That's really a good question for you to ask yourselves as a council candidate. The city does have a sales tax measure going before the voters in November. That's a 1% special tax requiring a supermajority to pass. That's 66.667% for it to be passed, directly for public safety, police and fire. One core thing that I will ask, and I'm a big proponent of this, is strategic planning. Where are the priorities of the city council? Where do they lie? Common themes. What are the city council adopted priority goals? Those really important things as a council member to think about once and if you do make it as a council member. A couple other things that are of importance: master tax sharing agreement hasn't been in existence for a number of decades. Future growth of the community. You heard from Public Works and Engineering and Community Development. We're limited in our water capacity. So there's a couple things that need to happen before those things are put into play. What is a fair share for the city? Revenues to offset expenses. We can project out what future expenses would be given a certain amount of growth in the community. Does a tax sharing agreement with the county make financial sense for the city of Livingston? Long-term planning and maintenance of the city infrastructure. You've seen a significant amount of investment that's going into our infrastructure. What are we planning to do in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to make sure that we're in a position to maintain our systems? The fire department, what does the city council wish to do? We should be getting word any day now about the SAFER grant. 2.0 staffing has been forced via the state of California, but we know that almost every other fire department in the state of California is at least at a 3.0 level. So where does the city of Livingston get to that point of providing that baseline level of service to the city of Livingston? And then just a fundamental question that I know that the management team asks themselves. I ask myself the question, what has worked in the city of Livingston and what hasn't worked in the city of Livingston? All questions that you may have individual responses for, but really key questions to ask yourself is to, what role would you take in advocating for those things as a council member? As you can see, there's a big theme of getting uniform information to all candidates. So how do you get more information from staff? So as a candidate, please contact the city clerk's office for additional information, and we'll make sure that you, as well as the rest of the candidates, receive the same level of information. Staff will provide all candidates the same information and remain consistent. And one thing that's really important is that we remain neutral in this and provide consistent, uniform information across the board. So what you can expect after the elections: attendance at the regular city council meetings scheduled on the first and third Tuesday of the month, onboarding with the city clerk's office, with HR and others, council training with the city attorney on the Brown Act, Public Records Act, council protocols, and then filing of FPPC forms such as the Form 700s and Form 460s, which you all, I believe, are already doing with Monica. So with that being said, that wraps up the presentation that we had today. We're happy to answer any questions that any of the candidates may have. And as I mentioned earlier today, all the questions we'll be providing responses, we'll be jotting them down and then providing them to those candidates that attend the 20th, and then vice versa. Those questions asked on the 20th will be provided to this group as well. So happy to answer any comments, questions from the candidates.
I have. Hello, Renee Mendonça. While I had quite a few questions, I do just want to say thank you to everybody who provided information. I know it was a brief overview, and from that, I think sometimes you get more questions, but I'm going to just try to ask the most important ones I feel like at this point, but I just want to thank everybody again. As our city manager stated, this city wouldn't exist without all the good work that everybody puts into it and I hope that all the residents attend some city council meetings and just get a chance to work with some of the different departments and see just exactly what goes into making our city work. I had a question about, as a city council member, is there D&O coverage that is provided for us? Directors and officers for decisions that we make that could financially cause a hardship to somebody or something or the city. Is that D&O coverage provided for us?
That's something that we probably need.
Okay.
I'm sure we can get back to you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I did have a question for the interim chief of police, although he's no longer here at this time. Just wondering if, it looks like we're kind of having some of the same issues that Merced County Sheriff's Department is having, as we all have seen Vern Warnicki on many TV, as he comes out on the news and that, asking, trying to, maintain the staff that they have, the police officers, and battling that our city might be a stepping stone just for a young police officer to then move on to another city for more money in that. Just wondering if there was anything that programs that we've looked at, or just, how we're looking at retaining our police officers. Because once you put the training in and that, there's an expense factor there. So retaining them is very important. And if it's budget are then the city council, are we looking at that budget to make sure that we're supporting that decision that the police department is making to keep these officers?
So I'll just touch on a couple things. Fortunately for the city of Livingston, I think we've got some incredible officers. One of the things that I will note is that although we do have some vacancies, they're not nearly at the level of what the sheriff's department is seeing. There is a good opportunity, and I think we talked about it this morning with some of our sworn personnel, is what are the things that keep our officers happy? And a lot of that is, what are we doing to invest in them to make sure that they're not looking for another opportunity in another agency? For all intents and purposes, we're all really fortunate to have the type of community that we have in Livingston. We don't have the types of issues that you might see in other communities that have a larger population, and that's really attractive for some folks. And so for us, I think one of the things that we talked about this morning is, what equipment do our personnel have? What are the training opportunities that exist for our personnel to make sure that we're investing in them and we give them as many opportunities to stay in the city of Livingston? I know that the current council places a priority in community engagement and staying connected with the community of Livingston, and that's something that we want to continue moving forward on a go-forward basis. We are in the middle of negotiations with our bargaining groups, and so that is something that as a council member, they're privy to those closed session discussions, but it is something that is really important to us. The big thing for us is, where do we see this, not only the city of Livingston going in 5, 10, 15 years, but where do we see this city of Livingston Police Department going in 5, 10, 15 years? And I will add one thing, that some of the things that we've done over the last year, whether it be with the implementation of the flock system, is really implementing technology to reduce, personnel that's required to do that work, whether that's on the flock system, whether that's with our radar technology and setting up a trailer to do some data gathering to see how speeding is happening in the community. So a lot of it, I think, is being combated with, the use of technology. But great question. I'll circle back with the chief and get some more input from him as well.
They're such a major part of our infrastructure and very appreciated. Let me see here. I did have a question just about from the when we talked about the finances, but as I attend more and more of the city council meetings, checks that are written, and those are disclosed each month, each meeting, I presume. So that kind of answered that question there. The fire station, and as we talked about the fire station, you did say that you were ready to hear on, hopefully going to hear shortly on that SAFER grant to see if we can't keep our fire station open and get the funding there that we need. Because again, I think that's very critical. It's part of our infrastructure as we look at building more homes, bringing more people in. Safety and response time is very important. So, and I imagine those updates will be at the city council meeting for the SAFER grant.
Yes, there is a meeting that staff is coordinating with the county tomorrow to get an update on that from the county CEO's office. One thing that I will say is that the SAFER grant is good for 3 years. So really the sales tax measure in November is really about the long-term viability and longevity of the revenue stream to support the expense of the fire department staffing on a go-forward basis beyond year 3.
So that was another one of my questions is on that 1% sales tax increase for the city, are we doing something internally to get this information out there, manning phones, going door to door, educating the residents, with the economy the way it is, everybody sees 1% as just something else we're having to pay for, but really knowing what that's going towards and how we're looking at the future of the city and to keep the fire department going, just wondering what we're doing there.
A great question. Tomorrow evening, the city council will be having a special meeting to get an update with respect to the discussions with the county with respect to Station 96. One item that is on the consent calendar for approval is an agreement with Tripepi Smith to do public education for the 1% sales tax measure. So part of that includes the development of an educational flyer, development of an educational video, development of other collateral pieces to put out to the community as well. Part of that also includes the development of a website. So the council will be seeing that tomorrow, and my hope is that they do approve that so that we can start pushing that out a little bit more on a go-forward basis.
Great, great. Thank you for answering that. I did have one question when it comes to the residents' concerns with Public Works. How does that information come in from the residents? Does it come in verbally, a phone call? Does it come in by mail? Just so that I know how that process works?
Yeah, the majority of the time that process consists of the resident calling in. They usually call into a city hall and voice their concern, and a work order is completed or processed to Public Works to address any concerns that the residents may have. They also do call Public Works directly, and if they do call Public Works directly, they're funneled through our administrative department, and they write up the work orders as well to address resident concerns.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And then let's see, I'm sorry. On the water usage, since water seems to be an issue and coming from the Planning Commission, it kind of has put a limitation on some of the projects we're reviewing for the future. Is there a area on the Livingston website where you can see the water usage, kind of what's being used, and kind of what we have in supply in that?
No, there's nothing on our website that tracks water production or consumption.
How does one person get that information then?
Public Records Act request, maybe Monica or city manager could answer that.
So I think one of the things that we do have online is the urban water management plan, and that gives a good indication of previous historical use of water. We can certainly provide you a link, as well as the rest of the candidates, of what that history has been, which is pretty updated information that we can provide.
Okay, thank you. When we were talking, when Marcy was talking for the human resources and that, just to better understand a little bit, because I have a lot of interaction with the city of Turlock because I work on their claims. As a city, are we self-insured? Do we belong to a JPA? Is there, because normally if you're in a JPA or that, there's loss control that's available to help with like the IIPP templates, compliance and that. Does the city of Livingston have something to help them with that?
Sure. So definitely we work collaboratively with our risk manager at the JPA, and we're part of a pool with, Central Northern regions. So we belong part of the pool. So yes, definitely they've provided support in that they will help us with the templates, and they also review our policies, and of course, legal. But yes, they provide the support that we've asked them for.
Okay, good. And as you were talking about some programs for like the employees to be able to see their paychecks on the portal and that, if you ever need any assistance, there's a couple of programs that I've just recently reviewed, Paycom, ADP, those. Mike could share some things with you on cost and, what exactly those could help you with. Sure. I'm sorry here. I've always been concerned, my last question, always been concerned with the tax sharing agreement with Merced County and the city of Livingston. Do we not currently have that in place?
No, we don't.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay. And that's been quite a number of years, and are we looking at maybe changing that to see what the benefits might be, the pros and cons?
So earlier this year, the council did establish an ad hoc to enter into negotiations with the county. The county advised us that they were no longer interested in pursuing those discussions until this fire station item got resolved.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Japjeet, thanks for being here, by the way. I know it's 5:22 and everybody wants to go home, so I do respect that everybody came to talk to us today. I pushed pretty hard for something like this. I'm assuming influenced it at least a little bit, so I do respect everybody's time. I will try to go down the line just to make it simpler. I know there's like 2 or 3 mics. So Monica, I'll start with city clerk questions. So this has been discussed in council meetings a little bit, and you provide a little bit more information right now. But it seems pretty clear that you're doing a lot, and how much of what you are having to do because of either lack of staffing or current city clerk is not doing, that is out of your job description, and that is either in the job description of the elected city clerk or the person that would be the assistant if we had one?
So a lot of my work is outside my job duties, especially the city clerk's position. That's mostly out of my duties. Pretty much as a deputy city clerk, as my duties say, I assist, but the city clerk is responsible for doing the rest of the items. However, the ordinance changed, so now they're looking into changing a few things.
Okay. And then is the vacancy of the assistant the only vacancy that exists for the office? Like, is it only supposed to be the 2 of you, apart from the city clerk?
Correct.
Okay.
And there just needs to be a job description, since it was just added to the budget for this fiscal year, for 2024. 2023, 2024? For the last fiscal year, 2023, 2024. So that was added to the budget. So they have to do a job description, go through the union process, and then go out for recruitment.
Okay. And then can I ask real quick how long you...
If I could add something to that. Nuances in just public sector jobs. We do something called underfilling, meaning we could have, let's just say we have an analyst, but let's say there's an immediate need to underfill that position with someone that can assist with activities or job duties that can be done, not necessarily by an analyst, but by someone else. And if I do understand correctly, there is currently a recruitment for an underfilled position to provide immediate assistance to the city clerk's office.
Correct.
And that's currently what we're doing right now to address the immediate need. We did have someone else that was assisting us, but that individual did go on maternity leave, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago. Yeah.
Okay. And then can you share how long you've been with the city, please?
5 years.
5 years? And then did you work at another city or public agency before that?
No.
Okay, thank you. Can I go to Happy, please? Thank you. So Happy, you mentioned that we are now in the process of getting caught up with our audits, and that there was a delay with getting the fiscal year 2022 and 2023 audits in place, can you share what caused that delay?
So the delays were basically just, I guess, management, not having the proper management in place, or not having the right personnel at that time, because at that time we were in, I guess, movement of various city managers, or we didn't, and as of today, we don't have a, I guess, a finance director. I'm acting as one in the role, and I think I've kind of done a good job at getting us caught up to date on it. At that time, I think it was just due to not having the right personnel in the right places, basically, or vacancies.
Right. And 2023 is in the process of getting finalized, right? You said at some point this week you should have a draft.
The 22, 23, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then how, in terms of staffing for your department, how many vacant positions do you have, if you don't mind sharing? You might
We
put-
have one, which is the finance director.
Which you're currently serving as, right?
I am
like
acting.
interim?
Yes.
And apart from that, do you feel like you guys have enough staff to do what you need to do? Or do you feel, I mean, obviously you're fulfilling the role of an interim, or do you feel it's a little overloaded because we don't have a director right now?
We do have Brad Grant, which is our, I guess, extra help. So he kind of assists with me in areas that we need coverage for.
Okay. And then our current budget, we have $32 million of revenue and $35 million of expenditures. You said all of the gap is coming from reserves?
It's reserves, and it's due to capital improvements that we have in our budget, yeah.
Okay.
And majority of it is from Public Works as they went over all their projects.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Can I pass to Martha, please? I'm sorry. Hi, Martha. First thing, Happy, can you share how long you've been with the city, please? I'm sorry.
10 years.
Okay, thanks. Hi again, Martha. Can I start with that one so I don't forget? Can you share how long you've been with the city?
6 years.
Okay, and then I know you're in community development, and we just lost our director
Yes.
recently. And so are you serving as the interim development director, or is that just completely vacant?
No. Right now we have planning. Right now that's current, vacant. Sorry.
Okay. And so obviously there's issues with water, even if something did get processed, but when people come to you, if they come to you, do applications kind of just die on the spot?
No, they come in, they fill out the application. We do discuss. We are very transparent and let them know that this is what they may or may not have water. But it all depends on what council decides with whatever we're going to bring back.
Okay. And then in terms of staffing for community development, do you feel that there are enough staff to carry out the work that needs to be done?
Well, right now we have that current vacancy for the community
Right.
development director. For building, all that is part-time. And then we have a part-time city planner.
Okay. Thank you. One thing I do want to say real quick, the reason I keep asking about staffing, I know you mentioned it in your positions, but I've worked part-time at a couple different public agencies, and it's a pretty common theme that you're always understaffed and you're always doing more than you're supposed to do. And we can't fix that at the snap of a finger, but I'd still like to know where you think we're at. So thanks for that. And then can you pass to Anthony, please? Hi, Anthony. Can I start by asking how long you've been with the city?
With the city of Livingston, been 5.5 years.
Okay. Obviously, water's a big issue right now. With the construction of the new wells that just got approved, do you think that we will have adequate water for the foreseeable future, or would you still like to see us get more wells under construction as soon as that's feasible?
That's something that we're working on. We're going to need additional wells, as we had in the within the next 5 years on the capital improvement slides that engineering went over. That was well 19 with wellhead treatment. Council just approved on September 3rd the new well 18, which is going to help with the capacity issues. But we need to keep on making progress with new wells as we grow and develop.
Okay. With the treatment plants that have been approved and are already running, should that put us underneath the legal threshold for levels of TCP and levels of arsenic?
Once the SRF project is completed, the $27 million project for TCP, once those projects are completed, then yes, that will put us into compliance with TCP.
Okay. And that SRF money, it's been approved already?
It hasn't, the agreement has not been signed yet, but we are in communication, the city is in communications with the State Water Board right now.
Has it been indicated at least like through messaging, like we have it, but it's not signed type of thing? In limbo? No answer?
We talked about it at the last council meeting, but essentially the city has an application, let's say for 47 million. The state has been wanting to fund about 27 million. So if the city were to sign the document and the city council were to say, yes, we'll sign for 27 million, the city would be foregoing $20 million. So we're looking at, potentially options that we have to appeal that decision being made by the state. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. And
Yeah, thank you.
Anthony, in terms of staffing, could you describe like the staffing capacity of the Public Works Department?
Right now, we are short, we have one operator vacancy right now that we are out in recruitment for it right now. It has been very difficult to attract operators. With the anticipated new projects coming up in the near future, it is time to start thinking about additional staffing.
Okay, thank you. I have a general engineering question. I'm not sure who would like to take it. Obviously, things take time to build, and you can't just build them overnight. That being said, like I'll talk to people about water, and it's like, hey, we just approved something. Oh, when are we going to start building stuff? Oh, it's going to take 2 years, right? And you can't just do everything quickly. But how much of that 2-year timeline is this just takes 2 years to build versus we could expedite if we had more staff or more resources?
No, it's not a question of staff, it's a question of equipment. It takes a long time for, and approvals through the state. Like with the grant, like with this 27 million grant or 42 down to 27 now, yeah, it actually takes years to get to that point. Once we have a funding agreement that's signed, then it still has to go to bid through all those processes, and they'll still take probably a couple of years to get one of these plants built. Right. And different plants take different amounts of time. Arsenic plants take maybe a little less. TCP take more. A well you can build maybe a little faster, but it's still like 2 to 4 years on these.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many of those state requirements or checks? Obviously, like red tape is a big deal in public agencies. Some of it's required, some of it seems like it's more than it should be. How much of that do you feel like we legitimately need versus we have to go through just because we have to go through?
Well, it takes a lot longer if you go through a grant program than if you do not. If you're and now with well 18, it will go faster because you don't have to go through all of that. You still have to meet all the state requirements for health and safety,
Yeah.
all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can you pass to RC, please? Hi, RC.
Hi.
Can you please share how long you've been with the city?
Sure, I've been with the city a little bit over a year and a half.
Okay. One thing I've heard a lot about City of Livingston is that we could use policies and procedures to inform certain processes that don't currently exist, and that we can get into issues at times because we don't have something to reference to. Do we have a dedicated staff person that writes policies and procedures or identifies gaps with that stuff, or is it we just take it on as we can?
We take it as, it comes to our attention.
Okay. And then in terms of staffing capacity, do you feel like staffing capacity is good? We have enough to do what we need to do, or is everybody doing as much as they can to keep us moving?
So I will say that with the compliance requirements, specifically like with all the training, and in my previous experience, I mean, we have, city hall personnel, we have police personnel, and then we have public works, and ensuring that all employees' certifications are up to date, and ensuring that all the training that for the employees is done adequately. Having a person dedicated to just doing that could be a full-time position.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Jackie. Congrats on almost 24 years, so I know I don't need to ask that one. You have very clearly been here the longest of everybody. And so I am very curious to know your perspective on like how far the city's come since you've been here, and what you think have been the biggest obstacles to putting progress forward over time. Just because, yeah, you've been here for a handful of years and you've seen a lot that's gone on.
We actually have come a long way as in my department. We started out with about 100 kids in basketball and maybe 200 kids in baseball. We had an Easter egg hunt, and that was about it. Wouldn't you say, Rod? And so we've really, we've exploded as far as recreation opportunities for the city. We've gained the Max Foster Sports Complex and the lit basketball courts out there. We've got the little guys feel lit. I mean, we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go to match the growth and the interest as far as my department goes. I think that as a person sitting back and seeing the different mini councils, I think that I wanted to say we've been through 8 city managers since I've been here. And as you know, fresh blood comes, fresh ideas. But one of the things that I can super appreciate about Christopher is that I'm being stretched. Like, a lot of times we would just run to somebody, but he puts it back in our court, like, think about this. So I've been able to grow as an individual in seeking answers and learning how things work. But I think that if I had like this poster that I could give to every new council member coming in, and it's kind of been said by Christopher, is that we all have to be on the same team. What does our community want? Yeah, we may want to have, a Walmart here, and we may want to have this, this, and this, but what does the community truly want? And I don't know that we've ever been out to the community and really said, hey, you guys, different people go to different council members and say things, but what is it that the community wants? Do we really want to grow? Do we really want to have a 50,000 member community? Or do we want to stay quaint and have the specialties that we already have as a community? So I think that going back to that, I think that if I could make any recommendation is that our council really gets on the same page and we truly find out what our citizens want and then try to work for them.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody answering. I know I ask a lot and I bug you guys at council meetings as I get a chance. So thanks for bearing with that. I do want to make a comment on that real quick. I'm 22 years old. I know a lot of people tell me I look older, but I'm 22. 4 years ago, I was running around down the street at the high school, staying out of trouble. And I understand that being at this young of an age and being in a position of responsibility, it's something that's concerning, especially to folks that are more experienced or are doing the work on a day-to-day. And I don't take that responsibility lightly, and so I think it's up to me to figure out what's going on and what we need. And with that, I would want to say to staff, please feel free to always provide any insight, comments, information that you feel is necessary. One thing that I've noticed in politics, which is one of the reasons that got me motivated to do it, is that a lot of elected officials don't want to listen. They don't want to be told. what's right or wrong. It's what I think and not what makes sense and what everybody's thinking. I don't like that pattern of thinking, and I'm not going to accuse anybody specifically in Livingston or another county. It's just what I've seen, and I'd like to help change that. And so I know things look different between now and November with information and how we interact with each other, and that's completely fair, but I do always want to keep that avenue open for communication because I like to learn as much as I can, and like everybody's saying, this is a joint effort, and I want to respect that. So thanks for your time and bearing with all of that.
Hello, Rodrigo Espinoza, candidate again for City Council. Well, I just want to say, I want to thank the staff, everybody, Chris. I think it's been great working with many of you that have been in the past, and hopefully with the new staff that's been here lately, if I get elected. And, depends on which city, right? If I get elected just here, then I'll be serving the community of Livingston as well. I know that my 8 years as a council member and 6 years as mayor and eight in the county, I just want to hopefully use that as experience to better help this community that I love and that where I live, where we all live. And one thing that I take pride in is that when I'm in the county, especially with my colleagues out there in the county, I say Livingston is the cleanest, safest city in Merced County. We have, a good police department, safe community, good sidewalks, good parks, and we have MID and PG&E. I know in 2005-06, we changed from PG&E to MID on all the new developments, and I'm glad we did because right now with PG&E all around the county, everywhere in California especially, people are complaining about PG&E and all the high utility rates, right? So it's just mind-boggling that everybody's getting high bills all this summer with the heat. But one of the main things that I want to talk about is that water quality has always been an issue since I started 22 years ago, and it's not going to stop because it's expensive. And every time you run for office, people complaining, why don't you guys fix the water? It's always going to be an issue. It was an issue back then in every election. Every 2 years is an issue. And because there's not enough funds. TCP didn't have a limit, and now it has a limit, on the parts per billion. And it's just ridiculous that they set it, so high that, that we have to spend so much millions of dollars to filter the water and provide safe, cleaning water. And it's still, like I said, I know it's not perfect, but I know our residents, at least, we try to, I know the city tries to deliver the best, clean water for the community residents as well. And one of my questions also on where will well 18 be at? Yeah. I know 17 is over there by Sun Valley where I live.
Yeah, 17 is done. So 18 is behind the car wash by Villas.
Oh, okay.
There's an empty lot there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and then I know there's a 19 proposed too, right? So,
Yeah, 19 is on the west side. By, you know where 11 is? Way out by Winton on the north
Parkway?
side.
Okay.
Yeah, on the north side of the.
I know 15 is where the new
Right.
by
yeah.
Starbucks, right?
Yeah, it's not 50. Yeah, it's on the north side of 99.
Okay.
Yeah, by the front. It's north of the frontage road by Winton.
Okay.
And that's 11. And 19 is going to be in that vicinity.
Okay. And like I said, Livingston's one of the safest cities in Merced County, and good, due to our police officers. I know that it's always also just like water is always police officers. Livingston and all the communities in Merced County are a training ground because everybody goes to the north to where people make more money, right? They pay better, and it's unfortunate that here in the valley we're a poor county. Merced's a poor county compared to other counties. And so we're a training ground, and I know that everybody deserves to search for a better paying job, right? So that's natural, and a lot of officers do their 2 years or more, and some are fortunate, like this officer. I know this officer has been here for a long time, so thank you for your service as well, and I know they do their best to keep us safe at night. And I think one of the things that we can do as candidates is, right now, as we're going to knock on doors, is my opinion, is that we'll be able to advocate for the 1 cent sales tax on a residence. I know it's not a good thing to like I said, talk about more taxes when, especially when there's high inflation. But I think that in order to sustain a good fire station and good police department, and in order to get more police officers and for them to get paid better, and so they can keep them here, they keep the best ones here, is that we got to, as candidates, advocate so we can pass in the city this 1 cent sales tax, and then they have the half-cent sales tax from the Merced County. So either have plus 1.5. It's going to be 1.5 cents. So it's going to be tough, but hopefully we can pass both taxes here in Livingston and Merced County. Because, like I said, we're also dependent, and we work together with the county as well. Another question is the general plan. Where the general plan is it stalled just because of the revenue sharing? It's stalled, or is it just still moving forward?
No, it was just I'd say we just had a lot of city managers not here, and like a lot of, what do you say? Vacancies.
Stability, right?
Vacancy, stability. And so now that we've been able to start moving forward, we are currently working towards the general plan. As a matter of fact, at the end of October, we're going to be having a workshop, which will be sending something in the next billing for the community, and then posting it on our website. So we'll send that to you, everyone.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons talk about the general plan is because for the last 8 years I've been on LAFCO, the Land Agency Formation Commission. So that's where the general plans come to be approved at LAFCO in the county. And like I said, obviously I lost the election and I'll be out. But I was hopefully going to vote on the Livingston's new general plan, but it hasn't moved forward. So it's been frustrating when I was in Livingston and now in the county that, like I said, it hasn't moved forward. And of course, with the revenue sharing agreement, it has the same way, hasn't moved forward with my colleagues. I know it's very political, and that's unfortunate. So something's got to happen in the future. So we'll see about that.
If I could add something too, Rodrigo. We've had a couple workshops with the council. There were a couple of policy proposals that were provided to the council. They provided direction. I do believe that the update on October 27th or late October will be the follow-up based on the council direction that's been provided. So there was a timeline that was provided with an amendment to the current contractor doing the work. And as I do understand, we are still adhering to that timeline that has been provided. So at that time, I think it was about 2 years that was provided to get us to completion of that, and we are following that timeline.
That's correct.
Because currently, the way it's proposed, Livingston is getting 25%, and the county keeps 75% of the new tax base. But it seems unfair for Livingston when Stanislaus County used to be that way, and then in the last few years they went 50-50. So the cities get 50% and the county keeps 50%. I know that the county provides more services, especially the hospitals, the district attorney, and all that. So hey, that's fine. It can be 40-60, but why 25-75 is very unfair. So like I said, who's ever on the council will have to fight for that. And then if I'm not a council, I'll be glad to support the city council as well. One of the questions I was going to ask the interim chief, John, was on the communication side. I know that sometimes our officers are out there, and the communication, just like in the same thing, the sheriff is installing a new $30 million system with towers and new radios all around the county to provide better access and better service for all the officers to make sure that they're safe. And there's always communicated throughout the whole county, but I don't know if we can tag along the same service or work with them as well on that. So that's one of the questions that we have to ask. Go ahead.
That's something we're looking into. It's just a matter of money and paying for it, essentially. But
yes, the new radio system that the sheriff's department is implementing should be good for the entire county, so we can all be on and that's one of the things we've been talking about in some of these co-op meetings that we've been to, is getting a universal radio service that provides service to the entire county, so we're not running into issues to where, you're at a particular location in the county and you're unable to communicate. Everybody should be able to communicate on the same radio frequency and everything, so it's in the works, and it sounds like it's something that is very doable. It's just gonna be a matter of having to have the funds to implement it and pay for it, so.
Great, and all the agencies probably work together, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, so far, it sounds like everybody is trying to get on board with doing that, but again, it would just be a matter of each individual city kind of getting on board with it, so.
good, thank you. And, I don't have the chance to check on the budget, but what are the city reserves at the moment for the city of Livingston?
To 30% reserves are good for a city, and we are there with the city of Livingston. So we are meeting that. One thing, as a policy item, I will bring up is that the council currently doesn't have a formal reserve policy for the city of Livingston. A lot of cities embody that within an ordinance or via resolution. It's something currently that the city of Livingston doesn't have, but by way of the audit, the last fiscal year 22 audit did show fund balance right at around, I think it was 30% or so of its operating general fund budget. And I should also note that whether it's a water fund, wastewater fund, general fund, I'm only specifically talking about the general fund because that's, I consider it the baby, the one that we have to look out for the most. Part of what the council did discuss, I think it was last week, was how much fund balance is left in the water capital, water operational budgets. And again, the staff made the recommendation to utilize some of those funding sources to leave at least, I believe it was 20% reserves within those funds. So even though we've allocated all those amounts that you saw that Happy provided, there was still a healthy fund balance in those accounts to ensure that if there was an emergency that happened, there was adequate reserves there to move forward on any capital expenses that might arise.
Yeah. Well, I think that we should have a policy in the reserve fund, just like as we do in the county. I know the county has $45 million reserve, but, in 1 month, we can use up $50 million so that the $50 million can go fast, so, and go bankrupt, so we don't want to go through that. And the other one is Hammett intersection lighting. I know that, that's coming forward with MCIG funds as well. And when is that anticipated to be finished? Or start construction?
Yeah, we don't have a rigid schedule on that one at this point because of all the players. We have, of course, MCAG, we have Caltrans as a big one, is the one that normally delays a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
So there's still a number of things from Caltrans that are not in place. And it keeps going back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And my last question is, we have ethics training and sexual harassment training every 2 years for all elected officials in the state, and that's mandated by the state. And I saw that the council was voting on code of ethics. I mean, the ethics. But if it's already been implemented every 2 years by the city, why is the city implementing more, a different one, right? So I know that it's very thorough, and ethics training is very intense. If you're getting it every 2 years, why you're putting different rules on it? So, if something's gonna be wrong, or somebody's not following, right? So why have it again? So, that was code of conduct, yeah. Yeah, but it follows the same thing, almost,
It's just a list of how the council, what they need to follow ethically. It's just signing off that they will ethically be not doing things that they're not supposed to. Yeah, it's just, I guess, another thing for them to sign.
Okay. Well, I don't think you need it as long as you follow. If you're doing all the ethics training, you don't need anything else. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Hello, everyone. I'm Gourmet Bagri, and I've been living in Livingston for 57 years. And I grew up on Walnut, where there used to be chicken houses off of Walnut. And I was just wondering if the water situation could be fixed just by shutting off number 8A, since you got 19 going now. Why would you keep something that takes $8 million to fix? Just shut it off.
Yeah, currently, we don't have a well 19 drilled.
I thought on the thing it
And
said
well-
you had well 19.
That's in the future, anticipated within the next 5 years in our capital improvement projects. And well 8A has been drilled, but is not in operation as of yet. It's anticipated to replace well 8.
Well, why not just take the 8 million and do the drilling?
We
And
have completed the drilling for well 8A, and we're replacing well 8 because it's the oldest well in that the city.
No,
that
why
lives-
throw $8 million more into it right now?
As far as 8 million, what are you referring to for 8 million?
That's what it said on your chart, that it's going to take $8 million to clean up the problem that the water is having. Well, 7 point something, I'm just going 8 million.
So maybe we can provide some clarity on, there's well 8 and then there's well 8A. So
Yeah,
Anthony,
well, 8A said that it needs $8 million or close to it to fix the problem in well 8.
So maybe Anthony, you can provide context as to what well 8 is, what well 8A is, and what work you're doing at well 8A.
Yeah, so well 8A is a replacement well for our current well 8, which is our oldest well that we have in the city. And that the well has been drilled already, but we ran into some. Yes, it's a new well that's been drilled.
Well, you have plenty of land on one down at the end.
Well, the location, the well has been drilled already. And the plan was to shut down and replace well 8 and use the water from well 8A. There was some arsenic that showed up in that well. And that's why council approved the arsenic treatment for that well.
So they didn't even consider shutting down 8 or 8A, whichever one it is, and not even, it would fix the problem and take well 8 and put it in a different spot.
Well, because where we need the capacity, the best option to move forward was I think we spent about $1 million, the city spent about $1 million or so in drilling that way.
But you already have the motors and the well and the pipes.
The pipes, yeah,
Just
drilled.
take them out and put them in a new spot.
it's not as easy as just moving over to a new spot. You know, there has to be test wells drilled, quality checked on that area as well to make sure we're not doing the same thing again and seeing high levels of arsenic, TCP, chromium, any other areas.
Okay, where is that well anyway? Yeah.
Well 18?
No,
Well 8A?
8A, yeah.
It's about 500 feet? No, about...
Well, it's behind Foster Farms. I don't know. Do you know
Oh,
where
they,
well 8
Do you know where well 8A
okay,
is?
the old freeway where it used to be?
sort of?
Well, you know, if I can help out, Anthony, sir, I don't think you understand is that 8A is replacing 8 because that one provides all the water for Foster Farms, and you can't move it out of there. It has to be there in order to provide water for Foster Farms because all the treatment is already there. So you can't, because he's trying to save the $8 million and move it somewhere else. That well is needed there to provide water for Foster Farms, that's why.
Okay, but you guys knew that the old freeway, it had gasoline leak underneath it. Why would you put a well there in the first place?
So
Who
on
okayed it?
on the initial test well that was drilled there, the initial results showed really low levels, good water, low levels of arsenic. That arsenic didn't show up until further testing once that well was drilled already. So in the beginning, in the test wells, the city did do their due diligence, but it showed up out of nowhere.
Okay, so it was fine until
Additional
later
testing,
on.
yeah, after it was drilled, correct.
Okay, I understand that. Okay, on the recreation thing, how did they let it get in the deficit that far? The deficit, yeah, it didn't,
So when the project was originally applied for, we applied for $7.3 million. That was pre-COVID. So then through a previous staff, they had engineering experience, they had connections that they were going to help, or what I believe they thought they would fill in some of our gaps. Well, unfortunately, that staff is gone. We had no heating and air conditioning built into the budget. Not the entire project was completed. So with the rise in cost of everything and things that were not added, it was just a substantial amount. But we do have high hopes. We have a grant writer coming on board, and we're phasing the project so we can get more smaller grants to put together the big picture.
okay, you have something on the ballot to get enough money?
We aren't going that direction to the taxpayer. We're going to the grant, whether it's federal, private, or statewide funding. We're going to be exploring all those options first.
Well, I think you'd be better off going to the taxpayers and asking them for the money.
And that would be something that the council would have to determine and then direct to get it on the ballot if that's what they chose.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Almost good evening. Well, it's already good evening, 6 o'clock. Well, thank you for everyone for being here. It was very helpful to be towards the end because most of the questions and answers were provided. But there's some of the main things that I learned in the last 4 years, and I think is very helpful, was having the opportunity to go to each individual department and learn how those departments work. Not only Public Works, the wastewater plant, police department, recreation, and the fire department. And having that additional knowledge, and when items came to us, to the council, it was not easier, but it was better having some previous knowledge of what either Public Works or what building or what planning was talking about. And in thinking about that, probably one of the other things that I would recommend and suggest for every council when they come in, and also for the city, to go ahead and plan for visits, group visits to each one of those areas and departments in the city, and then probably also even invite and consider opening that invitation to residents, so that also residents can learn how each one of those departments work. Because, and I'm sure like everybody else, I get questions like, why don't we build this? Why don't we build that? Well, and those, some of the things that have been accomplished have come from the residents' recommendations. But as it was explained, some of those things take a long process. Other than time, it takes money. So they need to be allocated, they need to be planned a year or 2 years ahead in order for council and the city to include it, to be able to include it in the budget. And things are not, probably some of the least expensive items that we saw on some of those lists were $500,000, 1.2, 3.5, $8 million. So even just, as some of you guys were sharing, some of the paving of the streets or resurfacing of the streets were done over time, over 3 to 4 or 5 years. Not everything can get done all at once, specifically because of funding. So those visits to those different departments would not only be helpful for every council, but also helpful for the residents to have also some understanding and knowledge of what it takes to get things done, so that the residents can help the council on plan on how to get things done. Because if the city had open checkbook with a lot of money in it, then everything could get done at a faster pace. But other than that, just encouraging residents to get more informed, learn more about what the city does, what each department does, so that more projects could get done, but with the resident support. Somebody just mentioned right now, just an additional tax to the residents, but what if the residents don't want it, so it's all primarily about funding. If we had the funding, then we could get a lot more things done. And then also thinking, as you have seen, the city has done a lot of things within the last 5 years, and there's a lot of projects planned for the next 15 years. And if things don't get planned ahead of time, it's hard for them to get accomplished. Also because of cost. Something that could have been done, something that cost $100 3 years ago, and now it's costing $250 or $300. So that has to be considered. So, but other than that, I just invite the residents to continue attending meetings and at least reading the agendas, if they're not able to attend the council meetings, but reading the agendas and asking questions. And I think that if residents had questions with the agendas, they could ask the council members, or they could ask the city. I have a question about item number 6 on the agenda. What does that mean? Or attend, and even after the fact, that could also be done. So just thank you for everyone in each and every department. And I know that as I've been talking to more residents, there's more questions, and I keep on inviting them to contact those departments or the city, and a lot of those things have gotten resolved just by calling or just coming in and asking those questions. So there's a lot more that could be done, could be accomplished just by taking that extra step. Thank you.
So I know we've got Councilmember Soto back there. I want to give you an opportunity as well. You are a candidate. If you have any questions for the management team for the presentation today. Can someone pass a microphone down, please?
Good evening. Thank you for providing this for the candidates and also for our residents. Your time is valuable. Everybody's here, time is valuable. So I'm going to make this quick. Only a few things, and it's unfortunate that I was watching online, but I was also trying to work. But at the same time, while I was present, I do have a question for Martha. Martha, you said earlier that things were backed up because we were without a city manager. At what point did we not have a city manager in place to continue on with city business?
It wasn't just the city manager, it was all our part-time all our planners have been part-time. So having them coming in once or twice a week was hard to move things forward.
Okay, I understand that. And I realize what you're talking about is having people who are part-time to do a full-time position is really difficult. So on our part, without having everybody's schedules or even interfering with staff, it makes it hard for council to, well, impossible for council to interfere, but those are some of the discussions that could have been had with the city managers to, create, schedules, and even a hiring process. But again, back then it was a difficult time, but we did have city manager in place, and somehow there were gaps in trying to achieve certain things. So thank you for that. I was just curious as to what you meant by we didn't have a city manager in place. Also, Jose had stated this, when we invite residents to come and join us at city council, and when city council has yet to actually come together and set goals as a team, it's very difficult to build those kinds of relationships and actually shoot for that goal. Since I've been on council, just 2018, and there's been some rough patches in between there, we hadn't had those opportunities from previous management to come together and do some goal setting. So that's one of the things that I appreciate that Christopher has brought to the city of Livingston, is actually putting some items before us that say, hey, with this experience in this, city, we've done this before. And I was just kind of wondering why the city of Livingston doesn't implement the same. And so getting those fresh eyes on the way that policy and procedures need to be run, or even just something as a goal. Why isn't this in place? Because I know that we've been to, we've held certain workshops, but they've kind of fallen to the wayside. And I'm part of that. So getting our leadership team, and that is us as a council, to be on board with certain goals. And so once we get those in place, then we can actually provide a great leadership for our residents. So I think it's been very difficult to, I don't want to say it's been difficult to be a leader, because we're all leaders in our certain capacities, but as it comes to city policies and cities moving forward, I believe that we needed to have better practices of what the city truly wants. And I know Jackie said it earlier, is that, what does the city of Livingston want? Well, the city of Livingston and perhaps some individuals don't know what they want until they can actually see it and it's presented to them and know that there are options. So once we can permit ourselves to go out there and say, this is in the best interest of the city as a whole, rather than advocate for certain things, we want that big picture. that's what we're aiming for. And I don't believe City of Livingston has had that for quite some time, because I believe that's why some of the projects have fallen off or had been delayed, because when I look back and I see city council meetings and I hear some of the statements, because I know that a question was made about the general plan, and during that time, we had the consultant say something that it was put on hold, and it was quite shocking because that wasn't a direction of the city council. And while I was watching some of the presentation, I believe Christopher was stating things that the job of the council is to provide that kind of direction. And when they're getting direction from different persons within the city, besides the council from the dais, it makes it very difficult for the city to operate when we're elected as the policymakers, but somehow staff, consultants, and others are getting some other types of feedback or input. So we need to be a stronger Livingston. We need to fight for what it is our residents want so that we can truly grow and actually become the team so that Livingston does thrive. And I know that each one of you, you've put in your years, and we want to, at least I'm seeing that there are some bridges that need to be I don't want to say there's bridges that has been burned entirely, but there are some relations and departments, and just we need to become a better fit, and that's for the betterment of Livingston. So thank you all for doing the jobs that you've been doing. I just want to make sure that what we're doing is in the best interest of moving Livingston forward, that we all have the same vision for Livingston, at least in most parts, so that we can thrive and that we're doing it in a healthy and stable manner that's good for Livingston. Because when I look back, we often wonder, and some residents wonder, well, what has been going on for the past umpteen years? And it's hard to answer that question. It's difficult. And I know that on most part for some city councilmen, there's things that we can say, some things that we can't say, because again, we run the risk of liability, but we all do. There's liability everywhere. So, but we want it best to protect the city. That is also what we need to do, and protect and serve our residents. So thank you for tonight. I'm not sure if I have any more questions. I know that we have another meeting tomorrow, and touching on the items that were shared tonight. So thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I wasn't expecting to, but thank you.
So just to recap, if you have additional questions, please reach out to Monica. We're going to be consistent and uniform in the information we provide to everyone. We appreciate everybody's time. I want to thank you all for making the time to be here. And then I want to really thank the management team for your assistance in developing all that. So that's all that we have. Thank you.